The pressure is starting to ratchet up on Prime Minister Justin Trudeau from his own Liberal Party to try and force him to step down as the party's leader before the next election. Last time we talked about this, I discussed Sean Casey, the Liberal MP from Charlottetown, publicly stating that Justin Trudeau should resign. And although in the past few days we haven't had any other Liberal MPs stand up and say he should resign, there's not that many spines in the Liberal Party caucus, there has been 4 Liberal ministers who have said that they're not running for re-election. And I just happened to go through the 338 website to see what the current projections are in the ridings where these MPs say that they're not going to be running again. I don't even care to go look up their names. It really doesn't matter. Most of these people are pretty faceless at this point, since as there's been so many cabinet shuffles, Trudeau has been slotting in more and more people who didn't have much of a profile and not much of a legacy of actually advocating publicly for policies. They're just kind of Liberal Party apparatchiks who were eventually pushed into cabinet when nobody knew who they were in the first place. So here's some of these ridings. St. Boniface, St. Vital in Montreal is a riding that the Liberals still have a slight edge for, which the MP is stepping down in. We have Delta, which is going to be a safe Conservative flip, it looks like. Same thing with Hamilton West, Ancaster Dundas, as well as Compton Stansted. Yes, sorry, I'm bad with French names. That looks like it's a pickup for the Bloc Québécois in this next election. And although there are interviews with some of these ministers who are stepping down saying, well, it was just personal reasons, that's why I'm leaving, I just want to spend more time with my family. For one thing, most politicians don't care about their family. I know most probably do, but I'm just being a bit hyperbolic. Most of them don't think about their family in this sort of warm, touchy-feely way where, oh, I don't spend enough time with them. One, politicians honestly don't work that hard and they spend a lot of time with their family. So oftentimes when they say, oh, I had family stuff, it just means I didn't want to run because the party is not going to win the next election. Some of them genuinely, probably, maybe if they're in their later 60s or early 70s, they genuinely weren't going to run again anyways, but they were going to wait a year before the election until they announced it. But let's be clear, many of these people, I looked up their ages, are in their 40s or 50s. They have a few more election cycles in them if they wanted to. They just know that they're either going to lose, or if they win, they might be the 3rd or 4th biggest party in parliament and have absolutely no effect on the political landscape. It's so bad right now for the Liberal Party that when I saw these 2 posts from Ahmed Hussein as well as Karen Goland, Karina Gould, when I saw these and it says 9 years ago, I was given the most incredible opportunity to serve our community. Together, we have made some incredible progress. And Ahmed Hussein had said something along the same lines. 9 years ago, we were given a big opportunity or whatever. I thought they were going to resign because that's usually how you start a resignation tweet. You know, it's been a wild 9 years, guys. You know, we fought like hell and now I'm going to go and retire somewhere. You know, it's just my time to go, guys. It's just my time to go. It's not because I'm going to lose. It's just my time to leave. These people are, it's so bad that I even interpret these people trying to pump themselves up as they're about to tell everyone, by the way, I'm not seeking re-election. And now we have a Liberal caucus meeting scheduled for next week, which it sounds like there's a bunch of backbenchers who are going to try and put pressure on Justin Trudeau to either allow for a leadership review where Liberal Party members can vote on whether or not they actually want Trudeau to stay on as the leader, or they're just going to tell him to outright get out of the way so that they can have a leadership race. I'm wondering if some of these people even resigned from cabinet recently, said they're not running for re-election, which allows them to now join the ranks of people saying that he has to go, because they don't want to be part of cabinet as well as be getting attacking Trudeau. They kind of want that one step back kind of, I'm about to leave anyway, so I'm just telling you my opinion openly. Even Nate Erickson-Smith, who is kind of still a big Justin Trudeau fanboy in the caucus, he's the one who has his own podcast he runs. I think it's called Unparliamentary or whatever. He's the one who freaked out the other day, the weirdo vegan who started swearing in a committee meeting because he couldn't hold himself back. I guess, didn't have enough protein in his system or something like that. I'm just being cheeky. But even he, when he released a video trying to defend Justin Trudeau when he was at his almost near bottom when it comes to popularity right after the Toronto St. Paul by-election loss. He wouldn't say Trudeau should resign, but he said, maybe it's time for a new generation. Maybe we need a leadership review. Maybe we need to have there more interaction from the leader to build confidence. That's a kind way of saying no. It's like when Anthony Housefather was on Vashi Kapelos's show on CTV News, and she was asking about there was some issues about Samadou being listed as a terrorist organization in Canada that they were discussing, which is a legitimate issue to discuss. That's not fluff at all. But she pivoted during the interview to, hey, are you part of this list of MPs we hear who have signed a letter asking Justin Trudeau to resign? And Anthony Housefather, in 2.5 minutes, I believe, of them discussing it back and forth, him and Vassy Kapelos refused to say that he wasn't on the list. And if he was actually still backing Trudeau, or at least doesn't really care and is just trying to put on a good show, he would just say Justin Trudeau still has my full and strong support. He wouldn't say that because he obviously doesn't. And at this caucus meeting, the problem that the Liberals are going to run into, and I'll bring this back up on screen because this is good to know. One, they don't have anyone to really replace Trudeau with. This was the polling that was done back in April, but I've seen it more recently, and it's pretty much the same, that nobody really has a strong feeling towards any of the potential Liberal replacements for Trudeau. Whenever you poll people on preferred replacements, Freeland gets 13%, Mark Carney 11%, Melanie Joly 5%, Philippe Champagne 5%, 4% Dominic LeBlanc 4%, Sean Fraser 3%, Anita Anand 54% unsure. And even that, after Mark Carney, you're pretty much just having people say, I recognize that name, and that's it. Even Chrystia Freeland, does anyone think Chrystia Freeland's a good politician? She is just a managerial class elite who people, I guess, are selecting in this poll because she's technically the deputy prime minister and a lot of people know who she is. They don't have good things to say about her, or there wouldn't be 54% of people unsure. Even Mark Carney, you're going to run a central bank elite against Pierre Poilievre at a time when the electorate is very populist right now. The electorate is very anti-central bank. They're tired of central bank, government solutions to economic problems. Oh, we just need to lower the interest rates a little bit. Oh, we just need this new stimulus package. Oh, we just need this targeted little tax cut or regulation or whatever protectionist policy in place to protect this industry. That's not going to happen. The tax burden is too high in this country across the board, every province, especially places like British Columbia. There are places in Canada that if you start making over $100,000, the government might as well just put you into the killing fields because they'll take everything you have. They are taking more than half your income if you have the audacity to be successful and make $100,000 or more in a year. And most people will eventually make more than $100,000 a year, whether it's just a great year for income from having a lot of extra work to do or it's inheriting something. Everyone is eventually going to get smashed with the capital gains hammer and the high income hammer that the Liberals and their provincial government counterparts have. The issue in Canada is that even in our most conservative province in Alberta, because of federal tax rates, it is better to be taxed in New York than it is to be in Alberta. It's better to be taxed in California, Oregon, New Mexico, Vermont, all these lefty states, Massachusetts, than being even in Alberta. In Alberta, I believe your tax burden is still like 49% overall in the upper brackets when you combined everything together. And that's not even including property tax, which might mean that places like San Francisco and New York City would edge out places like Calgary in terms of how much tax you pay. But as a general rule for income taxes, it's literally better to be in every single state in the U.S. and Alaska even up there where you'd assume that things would be quite a bit more expensive and the income taxes would be pretty brutal. I guess they're not a high tax state, but it's just an expensive state. But it's better to be in the States. I still want to be in Canada. I want Canada to be better. I specifically only make Canadian content because I don't want to go chase a U.S. audience over the border. And I'm not having an effect on the place I live. That's sad. I don't like when people gain more than 50,000 subscribers on YouTube or even sometimes just 10,000. And then they just start talking about the Trump-Kamala Harris race. It's like, who cares? There are better U.S. commentators than you or I that are already covering that race. They don't need us to say anything else. How about we fix this country, then we talk about the U.S. But regardless, moving on there, the Liberals have nobody. The caucus, I feel like I'm doing a bit of a Trump weave here. I've gone really far off of my topic, but I'm coming back. So the Liberals have no replacement. And in this caucus meeting, the problem they might have is if they don't finish off Justin Trudeau, they might just guarantee the party's even in worse shape going into 2025 with enough of a brand polishing. And I'm a conservative. I don't want these people to win. They're awful. But just from the pragmatic perspective, that if I was putting myself in the boots of somebody inside the Liberal Party who wants them to win as many seats as possible, having a caucus revolt against Trudeau that Trudeau survives might be worse than just getting rid of him or not doing it at all. Because it's like you're basically wounding your leader right before he goes into another fight. It's not a good look. And that might be the difference between the Liberals only getting 25 seats instead of holding on to maybe 50 or 60 seats, which is not unrealistic for the Liberals to be able to still pull off. And again, barring there could be a scandal for the Conservatives coming out. That's not me predicting something. That's just me saying in politics, scandals happen. When you have a big enough caucus, when there's enough people running around your party, someone's done something stupid. And so that might tighten things up. But if Justin Trudeau is already having all these caucus revolts around him, he's not having a single person feel confident in giving their vote to him. And a lot of the center-left vote who's unwilling to go conservative will then go Bloc, he'll go NDP, he'll go Green. They'll just go anywhere but Liberal because the Liberals have just left people with a taste of apathy in their mouth at this point. Who cares? Like, that's the big thing in politics. You want people to be excited about what you're doing, that they're not just voting against the other option. They genuinely also want to see you in government. Right now, I think with much of the Liberal base that's left, it's because it's not that they don't want to see the Liberals in government. They don't want to see the Conservatives out of government or not prevented from going in. They just don't think much of the Liberals at all. It's like they don't even exactly hate them. It's just like the option, like the flavor option of bland. They are a beige party at this point. Don't get me wrong. They're awful. They're managerial elites who have ruined the economy through mass immigration, high taxes, high regulations, all this other stuff, restrictions on resources. But on the top of it, they're boring. They're so boring. Could you imagine having to sit at a dinner table with Chrystia Freeland or Anita Anand or Sean Fraser trying to make conversation about politics? You wouldn't make it through the night. You would crawl out of the bathroom window. You would make up an excuse to leave. They're just boring. And that's just the managerial personality of them. They are very paperwork-based, wonky politicians who thinks that the detail of the regulations that they put forward and the plans make them good. I have a master's degree in public policy, and the main thing that taught me is I hate policy people. Not the people I studied with, obviously. I'm just talking about the mentality of people who do policy. I hate the idea that people will say, on page 86, that bill gets good, which I've heard people say, oh, well, this section of the bill has a really good, they had a really clear, they were very precise in the wording of this regulation. I think this was really good. It's like, oh my goodness, guys. If I hear that a regulation or some new bill is more than 5 pages, I'm going to bite somebody. Don't stop it. Just reduce the amount of paperwork in government. Honestly, regulatory books, legislative, the books, everything just needs to be cleared out. Even if it's not hurting anybody, we just need a lot of regulations out because it shouldn't be 10 textbooks deep to understand all of the ins and outs of agricultural policy and regulations. That's ridiculous. That's a way of making it so that normal people can't understand it, and anyone could be charged with a crime at any or any time or fined for something because obviously you can't follow that many minute details and policies. It's stupid. Too many procedures, too many forms you have to fill out. People always compare Canada under Trudeau at certain times to 1984 or to A Brave New World or whatever. It's the movie Brazil. Go look up the movie Brazil. It's the movie Brazil where it's easier to just install a new duct in your house so they don't fix the old ones and everyone's homes just become pipes everywhere because there's too many forms to fill out to get the actual old stuff fixed. That's what Canada's all about. It's forms everywhere, constantly doing paperwork, constantly paying somebody to not actually do their job, but at least keeps you off their back in terms of all the taxes you pay to, keep bureaucrats doing fake jobs. And so at this caucus meeting, I don't even know what pitch Trudeau makes to keep people on side. What have they done that would make you feel like, as a Liberal MP, assuming for some reason that we're not anti-liberal. I'm anti-liberal. This party sucks. I would never vote for them, never thought of voting for them. But if you're a Liberal MP, what have they actually done in the past year that shows you that they can learn? The Liberal Party's worst quality is they can't learn, because all of these people, and I'm just going to use the word again, are annoying elites. They genuinely cannot comprehend that they can ever be wrong. And so just checking their social media right now, it's still all about Poilievre. It's still just hitting them for climate. Oh my goodness. Who is this made for? It reads, Pure Poilievre would cut your Canadian carbon rebates and roll back our progress. He doesn't have a plan to fight climate change or grow the economy. This is from the Walrus. They're sharing this article from a left-wing rag magazine. The carbon tax is unpopular. Somebody in the Liberal caucus meeting, I guarantee you, is going to have an aneurysm over this, because goodness, stop talking about the carbon tax. Even if you call it the carbon rebate, it's never coming back in popularity. People want, and this is where I almost want to go over this an entire video. There is a myth of a moderate voter. It's a strategy firm created myth that there is a moderate voter out there who wants you to talk about things in a mild way. We're just putting a price on pollution. We know that we need immigration for a strong, diverse, inclusive economy. We need more blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's not what a moderate voter is. There's no such thing as a moderate voter, because anyone who's willing to get off their couch and vote is passionate. They are passionate at least about one thing, or someone's bugging them to go vote because, their dad's telling them you better vote today, or, you're going to get disowned, which I agree with them if they're telling you to vote conservative, kidding, regardless. But the thing, there is no such thing as a moderate voter. In British Columbia right now, in the provincial election, and if any of you weasels haven't voted in the BC election, you better go out there and vote if you live in BC and vote conservative. But in British Columbia, a moderate voter, in my mind, from my surveying of people, knocking on doors, talking to thousands of people and whatnot, reading polls, all this stuff, a moderate voter in British Columbia, and you can't get any more moderate than East Asian voters often. They tend to vote generally where right down the middle of public sentiment is. That's why they tend to usually vote Liberal, because that's usually where generic public sentiment is in federal elections. But this provincial election, they're mostly voting Conservative. They might vote Conservative by more than 60%. And it's because they want tough on crime policies, they want drugs off the streets, they hate SOGI 123, they want the healthcare system reformed, they want wasteful spending and government cut. They sound very conservative because they're not actually moderate. It's just that the middle of the road voter, the moderate voter, is voting very conservative this election. That's what you people have to understand. There's no such thing as this guy with mild opinions, and he just wants Aaron O'Toole to whisper sweet nothings in his ear, promise him absolutely nothing, but he sounded moderate and professional, and he comes off like you're like a very boring dad. That's not how people vote. Passionate people vote. So find the things people are passionate about, and you might make a passionate voter who will maybe turn out and vote for you. That's why I hate it whenever I see nomination candidates running for the Conservatives, and their website is, I'm against the carbon tax. Cool. What else? When I ran for a federal nomination, and frankly, I would have won if they didn't kick me out 3 weeks before the vote. Thanks, Jenny Byrne. But I had like 700 to like 1,100 supporters, and it was going to be an easy win, at least in my opinion, or at least I had a very good chance to run. I was running on stuff like reducing immigration by 2/3, because that's what moderate people want. I'd have moderate people at the door, people who aren't very political. They'd say, could you do more than 2/3 as a reduction? I wanted to do a 3 to 5% reduction across the board of income taxes, a 3% reduction in corporate income taxes, a reduction of one of those plans where every new regulation submitted, we have to get rid of 3, a lot of stuff like that. And that was very popular in my riding. Granted, more conservative riding, but people actually want reform these days. Moderate voters are reform voters. And so that's what the Liberals, this is a very long rabbit hole, are not getting with all of these types of posts. Moderate voters are not climate voters. Again, they're trying to post stuff like this. Who is this made for? I don't even know what this is. I don't even know what this is. I'll just let it play.
The most irresponsible inflationary prime minister in Canadian history.
Consumer prices slowed to 2.7% year over year in June.
Canada's annual inflation rate dropped to its lowest point in more than 3 years.
Good news today. Canada's inflation rate came in at 2% last month.
Canada's inflation rate has fallen to 1.6%.
That's not good. That's not even good. We should have a negative 2% inflation rate because inflation rates stack, morons. And that one lady there, good news, Canada, our inflation rate is down, but it's still increasing. And it's increasing on top of years where we had 7% and 9% inflation. 2.7% inflation and even 1.6% inflation is awful. That's a terrible record because we already have high prices and they're still going up, which means inflation probably is not going to catch up. Or our actual spending power is not going to catch up for a long time. No, this doesn't appeal to anybody. Like, I'm just going to keep going through this. Sorry if this is a long show, but I know some people like it when it's a bit more. Oh my goodness, this one. This is the dumbest talking point I've seen from them recently. Our Liberal housing plan will deliver nearly 4 million new homes, new protections for renters, more support for first-time buyers. Pierre Poilievre doesn't have a plan to solve the housing crisis. You guys have been in power for 9 years. 9 years. I just pointing it out, not to be a stickler about that, but you guys have kind of been in power for 9 years. And then suddenly they're still acting like they're the opposition, saying our plan will propose to build 4 million new homes, which the Conservative MP for Halderman at Norfolk, Leslyn Lewis, pointed out is a completely ridiculous promise because you'd have to be finishing a house at every 3.5 minutes, or I think it was like 3 minutes and 10 seconds, in order to fulfill that plan. And at one point she asked, saying, okay, this meeting's gone on for 30 minutes here. Have you guys built 9.5 houses yet? Because that's obviously something they can't do. And then they have the other ones, more protections for renters. Do you know what this is? It is allowing the government to fund the legal battles of anybody who is claiming to be a renter, which is what caused the squatting epidemic in places like California, where someone can just go create some fake rental agreement, break into your house, and then have the government defend them when you try and get them evicted. It's a lot of these stupid protections where, because things are unaffordable, they're going to make it so that you can't basically ever have your rent raised. You cannot be kicked out without like 6 months notice and all this other garbage. What was the last one there? More support for first-time home buyers. Wow, inflation. We're going to give a bunch of people money to go buy a house. It's subsidizing demand, which means that prices will simply go up because also taxes are going to have to be raised to either pay for this, or we're going to have to print more money. Oh, my goodness. Oh, this is the dumbest lie I've ever seen. I actually probably can't play this with sound just because it's one of these videos where they use public domain music. But like how it started here.
Our Canada Child Benefit will give families more with the high cost of raising their kids and will deliver extra support to those who need it most. Single parent families and low income families.
Since 2016, 650,000 kids have been lifted out of poverty. Wow, the child poverty rate's been cut by more than half. Why are there record rates of people using food banks? Is it just single people who are using food banks on all the kids are fine? Obviously, that's not true. We use cooked metrics to make it seem like something's better because we started studying child poverty based on how many kids under a certain age have iPhones. Oh, iPhones are cheaper, so more kids have them? Well, child poverty done. Oh, more kids can access a school lunch program? Oh, that means child poverty's over. Okay, but back 10 years ago, before you guys cut the child poverty rate in half, were parents more easily able to afford to give their kid a school lunch themselves? Yes? Oh, well, but the kids were poorer back then because now we give them bananas at school. So dumb. This is... I want the Liberals to lose, but not like this. This is just sad. These people need to fire their comms department and fire Justin Trudeau as well. And again, like I said in my last video about stuff like this, I want the Conservatives to actually have a tough fight in 2025 because they need to beat a Liberal, not just run against a pathetic Liberal who lets them win. I hope that the Liberals actually put their best foot forward because I think the Conservatives need a better challenge than this. This is pathetic. Everything is just assuming that they're going to attack Poilievre and people are going to be like, oh, wait, Trudeau doesn't suck because the Liberals said Polyev sucks. No, that's not how it works. Anyways, and also Polyev's the most popular person currently running to be the next prime minister. He actually has good plans that people agree with about cutting wasteful spending, lowering taxes, getting rid of unnecessary taxes like the carbon tax, cracking down on crime. It's all basic common sense stuff. And I'm not just using that common sense thing as a slogan, but it's like crime's high. Maybe we should punish repeat offenders harder. Maybe we should have more police on the streets. Maybe we should stop sponsoring safe supply programs and decriminalization of drug programs in places like Toronto and British Columbia. Maybe that's a thought. Anyways, that's it for me today, guys. Sorry for the longerish video. If you like them to be a little bit tighter, you're welcome if you like them being longer. And if you want to support the show, go and donate to the Give, Send, Go I have in the description of this video, as well as pinned at the top of the comments. It's for our legal fund. Anything really helps us out. I've paid more than $33,000 defending us in this frivolous defamation case. And so if you can't do anything like that, hyper understandable. Economy sucks, all that stuff. At least make sure you like this video, subscribe if you haven't, because more than 75% of people watching the videos usually are not subscribers. And then share it with a friend if you want other people to watch this show, because hopefully you find this informative, or at least if you don't learn anything, it helps you organize your own thoughts, because that's honestly what I always like about other people's podcasts. It is never usually shocking information. I just like the way that they phrase it, because it helps me phrase things better whenever I'm telling people about politics or I'm campaigning. Anyways, that's it for me today, guys. Have a good one.